Hello. Welcome back to the channel. Like always, I'm welcoming myself back to the channel as we hop on here. And I say we because I'm channeling Christ consciousness, Yeshua, Mary Magdalene energy. That's who I connect with most deeply. And so whenever I'm on here, I don't take personal credit for any of the things that come through me as the human. I simply purify my vessel, stay in the heart frequency and love energy as much as I can so that I can be a match to the energies that want to use me to channel through me. I don't feel like I explain that enough publicly. So I'm getting more conscious about where I get my information, I guess, and sharing that with you guys. So, but yay, I'm welcoming myself back because I come on when I am guided. I come on when they are ready to speak. And this was a really interesting message that wanted to come through. And it's about sacred relationship, divine partnership, divine love. There's a lot of inversion on our planet, and I don't want to spend any of this video talking about it, but many of my past videos have talked about it. It does feel like I have an energy that's here to expose it in a way, but maybe in a different way than those that are here to really be in the spiritual warfare, if you will. I have a different way of doing it. Some of you probably resonate with because it might be similar to how you feel like you're here to help and lead. So, the inversions and the templates that we have on this earth have become so, like, let me say it this way. The distortions and inversions are so normalized that they feel true, which is why when you go through an awakening process, it can be very, very almost scary because the way that you saw the world, that you were taught to see the world, that everyone around you saw it, you realize it was all backwards. It was all upside down, the upside down world, quite literally. So you feel like, oh my gosh, I've been lied to, I've been gaslit, I've been wrong. What does that mean about me, who I am as a person? How do I, there's so much confusion and chaos that can come from an awakening sort of ascension process because quite frankly, so much of what we've been taught is backwards, and well-meaning good people, right? Because I truly believe in the beauty of humanity more so than I believe in the depravity, but there's both, right? It's a world of polarity. But I like to look at the beauty. And so I really feel that if people knew what they were giving their power to, what they were praying to, what they were allowing into their lives, their children's lives, their families' lives, they would change. But there's a system in place of corruption, of inversion that keeps people very, very trapped. And I think it's why light workers tend to feel like outcasts and outsiders for much of their life until they awaken to the greater purpose and the higher vision, if you will, through balancing and purifying their own vessels through Christ consciousness and through an ascension, awakening sort of process. And then they get a little bit more focused on, okay, here's the mission. I'm here to help people. And we each have a specific, unique, beautiful blueprint on how we do that. So for me, I have been anointed to teach on sacred relationship, sacred partnership, sacred love, right? Divine counterparts, beloveds, twin flames, soulmates. Labels are what you make of them. And I tend to use the labels that most people understand, right? It's not necessarily about my own specific beliefs, because as I said before, the clearer and clearer I become, the more and more I realize this is not me. This is a deep, deep, powerful energy that speaks through me, like a pastor, right? Like a prophet, like a oracle, right? And the trap of those beautiful positions is when the human ego starts to convince themselves that they are that, right? That they are the answer, the reason, the why. And I know there's that famous verse from the Bible, I am that I am. And you Christians or people that know this better can clarify that for me. And I could be totally messing that up, but it's Yeshua claiming I am that I am, or I am that I am. And there's a lot of interpretations of that, but I believe that the transmission and the frequency and the divinity that was moving through that phrase is that you are co-creator, that you are powerful. It's the I am energy, right? Not to be confused with the human ego. I hope that's making sense, but that's not really what I'm here to talk about. That's just where they took me. So I'm here to talk about sacred relationship. And this was something that was so interesting that came through. We hear a lot of things in pop culture, not even pop culture. I don't know why I said pop culture, but I guess I'm relating it to if you happen to watch any sort of documentaries about love, television, reality TV. I'm not even talking about fiction. I'm not even talking about like romantic comedies or anything like that. I'm literally talking about when we hear like experts in the field, psychologists, marriage counselors, predominantly the things that they tell us, the jargon, if you will, that they pump out, the ideology. We hear some really, really harmful things. I'm trying to decide if I want to start with the main reason they wanted me to get on here, but I'm gonna save that. So I'm gonna start with just like an appetizer, if you will. One of them is that it's good to fight, right? How many times have we heard that? It's healthy to fight. It means you really love each other. Now, this is something that I am very close with. I have a very intimate connection with fighting, mainly because my family of origin, my family, my parents, my extended family, very loud, very passionate, very at times eccentric people, at least on one side of the family. And fighting was just modeled. It was just modeled for me. And I never questioned whether my parents really loved each other, because with the fighting, there was also the making up. So I did, maybe more than other children, did see my parents be affectionate towards each other. And on the other end of the spectrum, I witnessed other family members that never fought, at least not publicly, but you could feel the tension, right? You could feel the iciness towards one another, the coolness. You could feel that things were swept under the rug. And in fact, I would almost argue that they were probably never talked about, not even in private with one another. It was always just kind of kept under wraps. And so I could see the distortion as a child of sight, which some of you probably relate to, just being able to see and read energy and feel what people are saying versus what they're actually saying, but feel the energy behind it. So I could kind of see the issues, right, with both of those kind of polarities, with both of those extremes. But things that are true and good also have to be inverted and distorted so that there's chaos and confusion created from it, right? So when there may be some valid higher energy exaltation of when two people love each other, they're willing to call each other out, they're willing to be a divine mirror, they're willing to say, hey, you're not acting as your best self. That then also can get distorted, and it's good to fight, right? And there's such a difference in the quality. And what I witnessed with most of the people around me that were fighting, or the relationships that fought, my own past relationships included, it was not fighting for the good of one another. It was not fighting to free one another or show each other love. Maybe the intention started that way, but because of the modeling, because of the programming, because of our culture and our society, it always skewed into power struggles, power dynamics, right? It always tipped into that. Tit for tat. And the problem is once you create a relationship of fighting, or you create a relationship where it's like, oh, the more this person yells at me, or the more that this person questions me or contradicts me or picks me apart or does this or belittles me or puts me down, that really means that they love me, right? The more that gets embedded and reinforced, the more that relationship's trust erodes. Also, what erodes is peace. And I've been in that where you have this deep loyalty to this person, and you feel, you feel really bad about the whole thing. And you know that there's parts that you're to blame, and so you want to take full responsibility, but you also have this deep knowing that it's not fully you. And it's hard to have that ego be like, well, let me just let it go. It's really hard once you get into that state where you're like this, where there's the power struggle and the battle with one another. It's really hard to get to a state of surrender once it's already been created. And what happens is we keep dredging up the past. We keep going back to the past. Well, you did this and you did that, no matter what we say. And, by the way, This happens in platonic relationships and friendships as well, familial relationships. This is like all relationships. It's not just romantic, but it's like saying, okay, let's agree to disagree and let's move on, but never actually letting it go, right? And so there's constantly, it's almost like what you do is you have this wound, this open wound that just when it starts to scab over and heal a little bit, it gets bumped, right? And it could be so innocent. It could be innocent enough. It could be like the simplest bickering, that like the joke about, oh, you're like an old married couple, the simplest bickering. And we've accepted this. And by the way, then the wound opens, right? And then it's not healed again and you have to start from square one. And we've accepted this as the norm of relationships. We've accepted this as a sign of loyalty, longevity, the longer they've been together. That, like, even when we hear like anecdotes like, oh, just get past the 6-year mark in your marriage, dude, and you'll get there. It'll be fine. Just get past that first 6 years. And essentially what it is people are losing themselves. They're compromising. They're but not compromising in a divine fashion. And that's the heart of this transmission that I'm going to get to. They're not compromising for the sake of truth and ascension and expansion and divine mirrored love. No, they're compromising and they're getting broken down. And for men, often it's an emasculation. For women, often it's a feeling of victimization and powerlessness, and the need to kind of manipulate to get your way. And over time, and that's why it's like get past the 6-year mark, because the will to fight is gone at that point. And then it's kind of the yes, dear, but are you really happy? Is that really love? I would argue that it has gotten sour. It's like water, still water, right? After a while, it's not safe to drink. There's bacteria. There's just, and it's almost like the ideology, I think, is people think, well, if the water's flowing, if there's a storm, if there's waves and you're fighting and you're this and you're that, then you're stirring it up. Versus still water, right? So it's kind of like when I talked about those two examples where I would see in my family line, there was those that probably never fought, but just were super passive aggressive and it was all underlying and energetic. And you just couldn't imagine expressions of physical love with one another. You couldn't imagine that feeling good or being good. Or it's like secret anger. And kind of violence, and don't even get me started on sexuality and violence, because that's not what I'm here today to talk about. But you just can see where this erodes. And then on the split, that like my parents were, there was just like a lot of fighting, but it was tit for tat, and it was like keeping score, and that doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good, especially when you really do respect and love this person. After a while, one person submits and gives up, and then maybe there'll be like a testing ground again. It kind of reminds me of dogs, where like they'll always test the alpha, so that they may submit for a while, and then all of a sudden, boom, and it comes back with full force, and it's like, well, what's going on, right? So anyways, this is the model of relationships that we've been given, and we see it even like coached, that it's positive, especially the fighting aspect. I've seen so many therapists, like couples therapists, psychiatrists, whatever, experts talk about this. So it's no wonder that we have this in our mentality. But the thing is when there's that conflict, and when there's that contrast that is a very lower chakra, lower consciousness expression, where it's like it's literal war. It's enacting the templates and the frequencies of war in your romantic or platonic relationships, just enacting war. Nobody wins, just like nobody wins in war. Nobody ever wins. So it's a very distorted view that we have on relationship. And I guess I'll touch on this before I get to the meat and potatoes, if you will, of this transmission. There is a way to love somebody fiercely, ferociously, to feel this deep protective energy. I think of like a child, your own child, where you want them to succeed and you love them so much, but you don't interfere with their free will. You don't try and control them. And what is power? Control, right? We're just trying to control one another. We're trying to get the other to acquiesce. We're trying to get the other to do what we want them to do, because we think that if they do what we want them to do, then we will feel better. How do you escape that trap? You start to heal yourself and balance yourself, and you start to recognize, I am that I am. Ooh, I love when they circle back on things like that, which I think is the Bible verse. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me, please. But you realize I am that. I am that. I am the co-creator. I am creating my misery or pain or my freedom and salvation. I am always the one creating it. It's me. So when you take responsibility, what ends up happening? So let's say you're in a toxic relationship, because I think a lot of people have a lot of fear of surrendering when they have a fear that they might be with someone who would take advantage of them. And chances are you're probably right, because it happens so often. Because when we have these eroded templates for relationship, we do enter into relationships with people that are not safe and will never be safe, but it's because we need to learn this lesson, right? So there's a higher perspective that our higher self is guiding us into. It's not that you were misled. It's not that you were an idiot and you need to blame yourself and beat yourself up. No, you said, I'm electing to learn deeper and deeper truths around love and relationship. I want to know. I want to be a relationship warrior. I want to know the truth. I want to know true divine love, right? So you elect yourself into this relationship. So what happens when you start to take responsibility and you start to heal and you start to recognize where you are and how you really feel? You basically essentially stop gaslighting yourself. You stop lying to yourself, because chances are, especially if you're in a relationship with a toxic person or a person that's wrong for you in any way, there was a moment that you had towards the beginning where you knew deep down, but you did it anyway, because you didn't respect yourself, you didn't trust yourself, you didn't love yourself enough to say, I deserve more. You went for the comfort of the moment, you went for the ease, you went for the I'm lonely, you went for the, well, this is what I'm supposed to do, my family expects me to settle down, my family, blah, 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 right? You went for that. And it's okay, we all do it. That's how we learn. But we don't always have to do that. We can kind of graduate out of that type of learning if we want to, if we choose it. So chances are, when you start to heal yourself and you start to come back to this clarity and this knowing of who you really are, and where you're at in this whole situation, this person will start to reveal themselves to you. And you'll start to see the games and the manipulation and whatever's occurring, okay? Because it's very specific. And, I'm not going to give labels to it. I don't even need to go into that. I think I've done enough videos about that. And I think there's plenty of videos on the internet about how to recognize toxic traits and personality disorders and et cetera, et cetera. So you start to see this person clearly, and you stop becoming the victim, and you stop becoming the, I need to fight, it's me against them. And truly, if you're working a spiritual practice alongside this, so it's not just the mental kind of conscious self-growth stuff, but it's also connected to the spiritual, it's connected to the higher consciousness, which I call Christ consciousness. Your heart opens, your heart expands, and you can have absolute love and compassion for this person. You can have compassion and empathy for why they are the way they are, where they came from, and whatever. But you also, the love doesn't stop at them. It's within you. And it's the love you hold for yourself, where you now are able to emancipate. You're able to free yourself from this person, from this toxic bond. You're able to cut those cords, that karmic cycle. You're able to let go. You're able to move on. And with love, in a loving way, you step out of that battlefield of the power of the tit for tat. And there's a lot of ways to manipulate that and think you're doing it, especially those that just do the yes, dear. You think that you're stepping out of the battlefield when you're just acquiescing and you're not standing up for yourself and you're letting them run all over you and you just kind of ghost them or run away, but you're not. That's actually you still in the same frequency, just kind of avoiding. It's just an avoidant attachment style, which is also based in fear. But once you recognize that and you step out of that, you start to cultivate this inner light, this inner knowing of what is true and what is not in relationships, okay? And the fear-based decision-making just comes up to your attention, where you start to see where you're making decisions based out of fear of losing this person, fear of losing yourself. Oh, this is good, because this is going to connect us to the next part. Fear of losing the person or fear of losing yourself, right? Because it really does come back to that rejection, abandonment wound for most of us, especially when it comes to the actually all relationships. I was about to say romantic, but I'm like, no, that happens in friendships, that happens in family, that happens in business partnerships and stuff, right? The rejection, the abandonment, that's that deep, deep wound. And so what we then, based on that kind of model that we were given, that template of what relationships are supposed to be in this society, what we then are taught to do to heal, especially after maybe like a narcissistic relationship, is to put yourself first. To put yourself first above all else. Okay. And maybe you're, a godly person and you maybe after God, whatever, or whatever your higher power is. So maybe you do that, but you decide, I'm going to put myself first. I'm never going to let someone hurt me like that again. I'm never going to put someone above me again. I'm never going to give my power away again. And parts of that, just like I shared earlier, have a higher exaltation that's really beautiful. But there's also this sneaky fear connected to the pain of the past that erodes it and inverts it into something really unhealthy. And really, that actually what it does is it keeps you from true love. It blocks you from love. So you may be sitting right across from it and you can't recognize it and you run from it because of those vows that you promised to yourself from that wounded space of being hurt by this other person or other experience. And you said, I don't ever want to have that happen to me again. I don't ever want to feel that again because I felt powerless. When you really truly accept and honor your own power and your own sovereignty, and you have that deep love for yourself, you can extend that freely to anyone and everyone. You can extend that. You don't have any fear of running out of love. You don't have any fear of losing it. You don't have fear of losing yourself because you know that that love is coming from the well within you. So it's like overflowing. It's outpouring from you onto others. And there's never any that's running out for yourself, right? Because it's not demonstrative love. It's not performative love. It's not, I'm doing this because this is what this person wants me to do, but is it genuine? No, it's true. And there's no like fear from you around, let me cut myself off. I don't want to show them how much I love them or how much I care because then they're going to have power over me and they're going to use it, blah, 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 right? Because when you really cultivate this self-love and this deep trust within yourself and you have this open heart, all those fears go away because they cannot coexist at the same time as true unconditional love, which, by the way, is how God loves us. True unconditional love, which is why if you resonate with the divine partnership, counterpart, twin flame experience, that is the ultimate lesson of this, is to learn how to love ourselves and to love others in the way God loves us, right? To love unconditionally, to love like a good parent would love, but even beyond the parental love, honestly, it's even beyond that, where you're not trying to interfere with someone's free will. You're not trying to control them. You're not trying to play power dynamics or power games. You're truly loving them freely with no limitation, with no back doors, with no games, right? And so when you love that way, when you really truly love that way and you honor that person that you have deemed your partner, you know, you've seen it through the divine mirror, through the expression of this person calling you forward, you can freely and fully put them first, right? Because we're always told to put ourselves first. When you're putting them first, you're actually putting you first because you are them. There is no separation. And when you put them first in this way of devotional love, of giving, I don't even want to call it sacrifice. I'm not even going to use the word sacrifice because I think we have such negative connotations towards that. But in a surrendered, beautiful offering type of way. When we're truly in that space with the right person because we listened to our heart, we learned those lessons of love, we became a student of love, and we learned that, guess what? The energy comes right back to you. What you want wants you. What you are seeking is seeking you. That is the true lesson of the divine counterpart of the beloved. That's the true lesson. When you put them first, you are putting you first. Right? There's a lot of marriages that erode because once they have children, they start putting the kids first and then they lose each other and then they fall out of love and there's no sex and blah, 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 all this stuff, right? So we see how this has really negative effects. We see when people dishonor their partner, when they dishonor them by talking bad, by gossiping, by, you know, they get with their friends and they're like, oh my, like, you know, women have their own way of doing it and men have their own way of doing it, right? And it may be innocent enough. And that's our culture, right? It's so accepted. It's like, you know, men and women actually get together with other men and women, you know, to talk crap about their partners in a way, to vent. We call it healthy venting. But what it is it's actually an erosion. It's a distortion, a complete distortion of not honoring this person, not honoring yourself. Because this is the thing. When you start to do that and talk badly about your partner, guess what? You married them. You chose them. You decided to build a life with them, whether you got married or not, but you're with them. You are with them. So who are you also dishonoring and eroding? Or I don't know if that's the right way to use that word, but who are you also dishonoring? You. You're saying that you can't choose good love. You know, you can't trust yourself. You can't make the right decisions. You also don't have the guts or the courage to leave when you're so unhappy. You know, there's so many things rolled up and wrapped up into that. And what do you teach your children? You teach your children also, don't even get me started on people that talk crap about their parents to the parent, right? Or yeah, talk crap to their children about their spouse or about the father or mother of their child. Don't even get me started on that. What are you teaching your children? Right? So we don't need to be afraid. We don't need to be afraid to have this just unbridled passion and love and desire and just, oh, it's like so big. Sometimes it feels so big. We're like, how can I even hold this? It's too big to hold. We don't have to fear feeling that for somebody. And if you've been in a twin flame dynamic, you understand this, you know what this is like. right? And it can be very scary. And depending on your wounding, you're going to react differently, right? Feminines want to cling and hold on to it and, oh, don't leave. And masculines go, it's too scary. I gotta go, right? They want to run. So it's these, because it's so big, it feels so big. And it's because each were fearing it, and they were not putting each other first, right? Neither were putting one another first. But if you truly felt the energy of putting each other first, guess what? It's like, it's the infinity. It's the flow. It's the flow of energy. It's just the flow of reciprocation. It's equal give and take, reciprocity. And that builds on everything else. So everything that the beloveds create then together from that point, whether it's children, whether it's a business, whether it's a home, whether it's mission work and service to humanity, whatever it is, it's held together by that beautiful pillar, the Trinity, which is God, the all, the one, the oneness, divine creator, creatrix, divine mother, divine father, et cetera, whatever names you want to give it. God, Yeshua, Mary, held these two counterparts, putting each other first, putting God and themselves first, right? Because through the process of putting each other first and not being afraid of that, not being afraid to hold the bigness of this gift, this beautiful, beautiful gift from the divine, of a divine beloved partner to do life with, like not being afraid of it. There was a tangent that I was guided to go down, and I stopped myself for a minute. So I'll visit it here. I think I have enough videos about this. But I'll say a little bit about it here. I understand that the process of knowing who that person is can be very challenging and very difficult. And I know that sometimes when we feel challenged or triggered by somebody because of the inversion in the world, I've talked about this before, the devil will never challenge you. The devil energy in people and in the world, it will never challenge you. It doesn't want you to rise or be greater. It's going to be that yes man. It's going to, let's say you're an artist and let's say you created something. It's going to be all the people around you that say, yeah, it's good. It's great. Let's do it. Let's publish it. Let's produce it. Let's make it. Let's blah, blah, blah. Instead of that person who has the trust and the faith and the self-worth within themselves and the confidence within themselves to say, and not only that, the person that really freaking loves you or really believes in your art to say, hey, you know what? I think it could be better. I think we could tweak it. I think we could do something here. I don't think it's ready yet. And I'm saying that because I love you. Do you know what I mean? Someone that's able to do that. And what I've found is in true divine counterparts, they're able to do that with one another very easily. Whereas maybe they weren't ever able to do that in other relationships where they weren't ever able to do that. Maybe they have a history of enabling their family and friends and whoever, right? Partners. But with this person, for whatever reason, they're able to say, no, be better. You can do better. And you want to know, why I think that's the case is because it's true unconditional love. It is infinite love. It's beyond this time and space continuum reality. It's beyond all of this. It's infinite, right? And that person being that divine mirror, they bring out the best in you. They bring out your divinity. They bring out the flame, the ignition of the flame, the spark, the Christ consciousness. They bring that out in you. You don't even know what's happening. And so you're ideally able to say these things. Or for some, it's not even about you confronting them or saying anything, or, it's just about your very presence, your very being, the very nature of who you are. And if, for example, one person is living closer in alignment to their higher self and the other isn't, the one that isn't is going to feel just challenged by who this person is and not even know why, not even be able to put a finger on it, not even be able to be like, I don't know why. So that's how we can kind of recognize the truth of it. And to be honest with you, this is going to be alive in every relationship in your life. And it may not even be people you know. Like, let's say you're a Jew and you're very triggered by Christians. You're very challenged by it. I would say that that's an invitation from Creator for you to explore that, to figure out why, to go deep into that, right? Make friends with some, maybe research, maybe try and understand. Do a little investigation, and that's going to grow you and expand you and make you better, right? It's going to, and for lack of better, make you better, right? I know there's better ways to kind of say that. And then there's, the yes people in your life that aren't going to challenge you, that, are going to be the, what do they call that? Fair weathered friends. They're there when it's a good time, but if you're down, they're not there, that sort of vibe. Unfortunately, a lot of us decide to get married to these people or build our lives with these people, have children with these people. And, it eventually crashes and burns. And so it just continues to create this perpetual cycle of children that don't know how to love, and they don't know how to recognize love when it hits them in the face, right? And that's what we're breaking. Those of us that have been anointed on this path of learning through relationship, given this gift, that's what we're here to help others break out of through our own path, through our own pain, through our own experience, just like Christ, right? Through that path of suffering and pain and sacrifice and blood ritual and whatever. That was literally what freed so many of us to find our own sovereignty. And it's essentially what we're doing here in terms of relationship. And I believe there's souls placed all over this earth right now who have specific templates to free us. And you and I here that find me here, just happen to be here to help free people when it comes to relationships, when it comes to love, true love. And what's more important than that? Truly, what is more important than that? That's another inversion. We're taught that it's not that important. We're taught, go make your money, get your, what was I going to say? Stacks in order. I don't even know what that, get your coins in order. And then you can find true love. Then it'll just magically find you. But guess what? You're never going to find the right person in that space. I mean, not say never. I don't want to say never, but, it's very hard to find the right person when you're leading with that. Or for women, oftentimes women lead with their bodies or their sexuality or their seductive qualities, right? You're not going to find the right partner. Because money comes and goes, looks fade, your body fade, all of this, right? But that's what twins are here. Twins, beloveds, divine counterparts, soulmates. I don't care what you call it. We're here to lead by example through our testimony, which is the very act of our life. The very act of our life. So don't be afraid when you find that person, when you feel that truth, when you see that mirror, when you're challenged, but inspired and activated and motivated and determined, and you find yourself behaving in ways you've never behaved in the positive, where you're like putting this person first and you're sacrificing your own happiness or enjoyment in the present moment, the comfort, for this person. Don't be afraid to put this person first. Don't be afraid to go all in. Don't be afraid to jump into the deep end. You will not regret it. And it will give and give back to you in ways you can't even begin thinking about, like the children that come from these types of relationships, the gift that must be to watch them navigate this earth in a way that you could have never imagined being able to navigate. So don't be afraid. And also, I'm guided to share this for those of you that do resonate with the twin flame journey and maybe resonate with being a divine feminine, and maybe your divine masculine walked away from you. I'm being guided to share that is essentially what I'm talking about here, that person at that time, whatever the unique scenario and situation was able to be their best selves, where they chose you and themselves over the bliss and the ease and the comfort of the moment. Because as twin flames, you're moth to the flame, right? You want to be around each other. You can't help it. The desire, the sexual connection, all of that. You want to be with each other. So to pull yourself away because you feel this deep knowing that you can't even explain, that you're not right, you're not ready, you're going to hurt each other, whatever it is that, depending on which twin walks away, feels, that you wouldn't have been able to do in a karmic relationship, because you can't get away in a karmic relationship. You have to be in that, whether it's hell, whether it's sometimes heaven, but most of the time hell. You got to be in that until you play that contract out and you wake up and you learn the lesson, right? There's no getting away. And especially if it's an unhealthy, unbalanced one where one person is pulling another one back in and the other one keeps trying to escape, you can't, right? And the one that's toxic would never have the deep love and ability to say, you know what, I'm going to let you go. I'm not going to interfere with your free will. I love you enough to let you go. Or I love you enough to walk away, knowing that I am not the partner you need right now, that I am not who I need to be for you. And I would only bring you pain and confusion and suffering, right? So that really is an act of true love and sacrifice, and putting the counterpart first. That really is, as painful as it might be. And there's distortion in it, of course. I'm well aware of the distortion, right? The excuses and the human stuff that gets in the way of that. But at the heart of it, at the very heart of it, there is that truth. Okay. And there's always redemption available. There's always resurrection available. There's always the path to ascension and the path to making it right and falling on your sword and coming clean and purifying and being willing to expose yourself and be vulnerable and put yourself out there to make it right. So, yeah. Okay. I think that's it. That's what I wanted to say. Don't be afraid of this, love. You wanted it. You signed up for it. You designed it. Yeah. I hope this helps. I hope this, connects dots for you, puts pieces of the puzzle together for you. It was really spontaneous. I had no intention of recording this. I was on my way to go do some errands, and then this just popped in and I had to stop what I was doing to come channel this. So I really hope it supports. I am sending you all so much love, so much healing. If you are interested in more content like this, which is where I share the bulk of my content when I disappear for months at a time, I'm over on my Patreon. The link for that is down below. There's several tiers, very accessible and affordable, with our world and inflation and all that stuff. Very, very accessible if you want more content and you want a community and feeling supported. We do all kinds of things in there. And also, if you want support and guidance on your own personal journey and diving deeper on these concepts or getting to a place of embodiment, I do work one-on-one. That's one of my favorite things I do. So I keep that open. I don't ever stop doing one-on-one sessions, as I know many people do, but that's my heart. So there's affordable options when it comes to subscriptions. That's the most accessible. But you can also just book one-off sessions as well. And coaching packages and all that. So check that out. The information is down below. I'm sending you all so much love, and I'll be back when I'm back.